Welcome to the Napa Valley Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Jay Lang, the spiritual director of this center. We are an inclusive community for spiritual growth and compassionate action. Come on in for one of our recent services. So my question today is God natural or supernatural? Is the divine within us or beyond us? I would suggest it's not beyond us at all. It is right where we are at all times. And yes, our doubts, our fears, our questionings, our overanalysis. Is anybody else here an overthinker? I like, yeah. Guess what? That gets in the way of our relationship with Spirit. And you don't have to have a name for it. Everybody has different names for Spirit. Some are very nicknames. But the truth is, you just open up to it, and it can be a sense of peace within you. A sense that things are going to be okay. That things are going to work out, to trust the universe. You might not know how. And you may say, God, show me how, and nothing comes. You know, there's no burning bush there that is not consumed by the fire. There's no lightning bolt that flashes down. But you can get a sense that things are going to be okay. Things are going to work out. And I know the Spirit's going to guide me along the way. And we all I think we can admit it, that we're recovering control freaks. You know, we like to know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, if it's going to happen. So we don't have to be in this unknown, but the truth is life is full of the unknown. And I do think it's part of the way life is built, because in the unknown, new creativity can come out of that. New possibilities, things that we would never have thought before. That in that crack between the worlds, greater truths come out. So today, what I wanted to do, to be willing to explore the unknown, is to kind of break through some of those myths of religion and spirituality. Some are obvious, and we know that, but I want to start from the very beginning, because I want to make sure that there's no assumptions made about Spirit. And things that we think may be true, but they're not. Or maybe they're not. Who knows? But not to be so caught into, this is the way it is, it has to be this way. And even the sacred documents we have, like the Bible, for instance, they're testaments. The Bible's called the Old Testament, the New Testament. They're just testimonies. There's people's stories of exploration of their faith and what they thought about God, what they thought about Spirit, and how they saw it and how they lived that way and how it worked for them. It's not meant to be a factual statement about anything. It's just the way they explored it. Ernest Holmes, all his writings, he's not saying he was the absolute truth, that he was some kind of prophet. He was synthesized the greatest wisdom that he could find and synthesized into things. And you'll hear me today contradict some things that he said, because I think things have evolved. It is spiritual maturity to allow our thoughts about God, about Spirit, to evolve, to change, not get stuck into something. So today I'm going to be a myth buster, because remember the show that was on a few years ago? I love that show. It's like, they would go through science. Yeah, I know some of you young people are going, what? But still, this was a great show, and you can find it probably on YouTube or something. But scientifically, they went through things and explored them, and it was fun. So today I'd like to bust some other myths that are spiritual myths, so to speak. So the first one is, God is an old white man who lives in the clouds. Now, most of you have gone past this, but I want to make sure that we're clear about this. That, first of all, I remember from early on, I was going, what is up? Where are you? I mean, which side of the earth are on? And then which would it make which is up? And as we move around, do we move away from God? Is he over in the clouds over there? It just didn't make any sense. But I did admit that my image of God, because I wanted to know what he looked like, was somewhere between Moses and Santa Claus. And, like Santa Claus, I was afraid that if I didn't do certain things, I wouldn't be on the good list, right? I'd be on the naughty list and not get what I wanted in life. And what's interesting about that, we laugh about that as if, we know that doesn't happen. We know that's not true. But part of this, because we were told about this or learned about it when we were young, still has an effect on us. It's still in our belief system is we think sometimes we are a sinner or we're bad or we don't deserve something because we've done something in our past. And this is why we need to update the most basic things. I mean, the Bible was written, as well as the Quran and the Talmud were written with such a patriarchal lens. It was amazing. So take the story of Adam and Eve. The people that were, and it was what scholars believe is a combination of different myths that were happening from ancient times then. But they took parts and added parts. I don't know what they did. But to think that they wouldn't admit that women were the creative force, that somehow men created women by a rib in their body. To discount the role of women in the birthing process. I wouldn't dare doubt that right now. I mean, I was with both of my sons as my first wife birthed our children. It was a miracle both times. I mean, it was miraculous. The most awe moment I've had to see the birth and that creative process and that beautiful process. But we know that God is not, this. But what is God? Well, the truth is God is all there is. And all there is God. God is genderless, formless, nowhere and everywhere at the same time. And also, it doesn't matter what we call Spirit, God, Yahweh, Allah, Great Spirit. What it matters is it personal to you? Is it something that works for you? In other words, if I get up here, and sometimes I slip and I say he, instead of we try to say it, a genderless word. But I mean, this morning, you were singing about the mother and the father, and it was beautiful. We could because through the music, we could kind of relate to that. But somebody in here might have had a little problem with that. And if you do, just replace it with what works for you. Because we're all meaning the same thing, right? I don't think of my supreme being, Spirit, as being gendered. But sometimes we might say that. Or for some people, the word God doesn't work because of your upbringing. If I say God and it doesn't work for you, replace it with what does. Because you know what I'm talking about. I am definitely not talking about that. Okay, let's be clear about that. And Rabia, the mystic poet that I was talking about early, she had this to write in her poem called It Works. Would you come if someone called you by the wrong name? I wept because he, and she used the word he, but Spirit did not enter my arms. Then one night I was told a secret. Perhaps the name you call God is not really his. Maybe it's just an alias. I thought about this and came up with a pet name for my beloved I never mention to others. All I can say is it works. And that's the bottom line. We want this when you invite Spirit, call it peace, call it love, call it whatever it works. I don't know if you remember when Rev. Kristen was here. By the way, she got married this weekend, so she's the love of her life, Ryan, and in North Carolina. And but when she spoke, she talked about. Do you remember the name she called God? It was Bev, which was short for my beloved. but it was a nickname she had. I've known people to call Spirit the Great Kahuna. I had a friend that called God Fred. I never figured out why, but it worked for him. It was personal to him that worked. And that's what we want to do, is we want something that's personal. Ernest Holmes, our founder, talked about God is personal to all who feel this indwelling Spirit, who all invite this experience. So try out different names. Try out what works for you. Or if you already have one, use that one by all means. And don't let what somebody else calls, even if somebody says Jesus, talking about their Savior, just you know what they're talking about. They're talking about a higher being. And let it be okay. We don't need to judge anybody about their beliefs. It's all good and it's all God. Everything is God. Everybody is God. Because that's all there is God. Second myth. If we're obedient, we'll go to heaven. If we disobey God, we will be punished. This is the most harmful of all myths there are. And if we think about the creation story in the Old Testament in Genesis, it's not about disobedience like so many people talk about it being. It's about choice. So Adam and Eve decide that, God told them, well, whatever you do, don't eat of the tree of knowledge. Whatever you do, don't do that. Because if you do, you'll be like gods. And they go, we want to choose. We want to be able to choose what we eat. And so they did eat of that apple. They chose to do it. They wanted this. And God goes, okay, you ate of the apple. Now you will live a life of choice, which is a human life. I love the story in some interpretations, some versions of the Bible, where God takes Adam and Eve and puts them in a human skin. Can't you imagine just putting the soul in a little human skin? Okay, that one fits you. Okay, that one's yours. Okay, down you go. Down you go. But it's not down, but what they did is now they're human. And in this human life, you may not know this, sometimes there is pain in this human life, right? Emotional, physical pain, stuff we don't want to deal with. And guess what? That is this thing called life, human life. Our soul, our life force existed before we were put in this little human skin, and it will exist after we leave this human skin. This eternal life that's not by what we believe or what we think. Everybody has this eternal life, no matter how you die or even how you live. Now there may be, I believe, I don't know, haven't died yet, but some sort of accountability for how you've lived. Or maybe you need to repeat certain patterns later on. I don't even know if there's multiple lives. Some people believe that. Some people believe that we're here for a certain particular purpose or reason. I don't know that. I know that in this life there are things that I am finding that are important for me to learn and to continue to grow with. Perhaps some people that their life ends earlier than expected, that they come back next time and relearn it. Some people believe we choose our life before we come into it. I'm not sure about that. I just know that there is a soul that comes into this life that incarnates in this human, and then it goes on beyond this, because I have had connection with people that have moved beyond. And that they are happy and well. So I know there's a happiness for them afterwards, or at least a well-beingness, that they're at peace. And we can be at peace when a loved one passes. And we don't need to be worried about when we leave this little human skin that's fragile. We take care of it the best we can. And some people might even have an agreement to leave early. I don't know, but I know that there's eternal life for all people. And that we are this cosmic dust, if you want to call it. We're made of the earth. We're made of the universe. And our life force that's within this skin, within this body, is God. Naturally divine, because it's who we were before, and it's who we'll be afterwards as well. So the spiritual truth is, in this life, we can always choose alignment and peace. No matter what we've done or what we're experiencing, we can always come back to choice, because that's what we were incarnated into. That's what we chose in the myth of Adam and Eve, is choice. We're a choice. And that means not that there's a devil or evil here, but people have a choice to do harm in this world, as sad as it is. They can choose to do that harm, and no matter what, whether intentional or accidental harm you've done towards others or towards yourself, you can always choose again. You can always go back to alignment. Heaven and hell are states of mind on earth, and we can create heaven on earth. All spiritual teachers and mystics talk about this experience we can have within, and we can create it. The new class that I'm teaching, Mental Equivalence, we're using a book called by Gabrielle Bernstein. It's called Super Attractors. Good book. She's a modern spiritual teacher, and she talks about this story. She's such a modern spiritual teacher. She's on all the social media. I mean, she's big in YouTube and Instagram and things I don't even know how to use, but I that Twitter and all that, and she's, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of followers. And before, she was still learning about social media, and she was on social media, she was on Facebook, and somebody really criticized her about being a fake teacher, and somebody agreed with them, and she was really hurt by it, depressed for a couple days, when her husband said, you're still letting this get to you. What's going on? She goes, I don't know. I try to be authentic, and I don't know why they see that. And he goes, do you know there's thousands, tens of thousands of people that love and adore your teaching? She goes, well, they're not here. He goes, have you ever looked at Instagram messaging? She goes, I didn't even know there was such a thing. She went on Instagram and found these thousands of comments that were complimentary of her. Not of her personally, like people had been, but of her teaching, which is really what she wanted to be about. Not about her personally, but about her teaching. So sometimes we don't open up to Spirit. We get caught in that doubt and that fear and that negativity and one comment, when really there's a whole world out there that is here to support us and be willing to open up to this that's in us and around us. Next myth, we are sinful by nature. The truth is, there's no original sin. That's what I just talked about a few minutes ago. We chose. And in that, we became human. And what's amazing about this human life is, because we are divine and human at the same time, we get the chance to express the divine in this life, just right where we are. We have this opportunity, and Spirit needs us to express through it, through this skin and this body we have, because we're divinely nature. So really, we are an original blessing that we can know. And I know this has an effect on us still. We have to be really aware of this, because I hear people that are into new thought, new ideas, and using that to feel bad about themselves. They get sick. They do something that hurts somebody, or they lose their job. Whatever situation that happened, they start to blame what they were thinking, what their consciousness was that created that. That's just adding the guilt that we were given in Christianity, Protestantism, Catholicism, Jewish, Muslim, the same guilt that was all this Abrahamic-based stuff about a God that was vengeful and punishing when we weren't obedient. It's the same stuff. Let it go. Yes, take a moment to consider what your thoughts were, what your beliefs are that might have created it. But don't dwell on it. Don't obsess on it. Just go, well, this is what it is. Now I can choose alignment again. I can come back to the truth. So the truth about it is, we are blessed. We are a blessing. We are naturally divine in all aspects. There was a song written that sometimes you might have heard Karen Drucker sing it at times, but it's really by Libby Roderick. And Libby wrote this as if she channeled it as if it's Spirit speaking to us. And I haven't heard these words, but I've had this feeling of what this is. The words are, how could anyone ever tell you you are less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you are anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you are less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle and how deeply you're connected to my soul? So reverse that to say, you are beautiful, you are whole, your loving is a miracle, and you're deeply connected to Spirit, naturally, easily. And if anybody ever tries to tell you anything differently, including yourself, that's a lie. This is the truth. You are beautiful, whole, your loving is a miracle, and you're connected to Spirit naturally and wholly. Myth number 4, God does not give you anything you cannot handle. Okay, now as a clarification on this one, I believe with God you can handle anything that comes up in life. Spirit is the strength within you to be. But here's the kicker. God didn't give you that as if it's a test, as if to see what you do, like Job in the Old Testament, that he was, supposedly the devil tested him to see if he was still faithful. That doesn't happen. We come across challenges. We experience pain. There's no doubt about that. We've all experienced it. But it's not anything anybody did to you. It's not a test to see how good you are or how faithful you are. It just is, and now we can choose again. So the truth is, when we allow God to be the power in and through us, we can handle anything. Parentheses, better than we can if we just do it ourselves. Yeah, we can get through things. We can power through things by ourselves, that what I would call by me kind of consciousness. But when we allow through us kind of consciousness, we can do so much more. So many things greater than we could ever do. When I was out on my trip, I was considering a hike. And I was guided towards this hike that was a long hike. It was about 6 miles round trip. And I thought, 6 miles, I can do that. That's pretty easy. And it was in Central Oregon. I got out on the trail, and about a mile in, suddenly I'm hiking in sand dunes. Have you ever hiked in sand dunes? And not straight sand dunes. Sand dunes, they go up and they go down, they go up. And so the 6 mile hike turned into a 10-mile hike. And at one point I got lost, and then and just reoriented myself. But I noticed there were posts everywhere I needed to go, because it was just a wide open sand, right? But there were posts, so I just followed the post, and I thought I was never going to make it to the end. I sat down at one point and had some lunch and regrouped myself and go, okay, I can do this. I was guided towards this. I got up, and right around the corner was a sign to tell me where to go. So, it's okay. I needed to stop. I needed to re-energize myself. It was harder than I thought it was going to be, but Spirit in me, I would call it more of a 10 to 12 mile hike with all the sand in there. But I was tired. I managed. It was a good challenge for me because it led me to believe. And what I know is that we can't control our conditions. The myth, I jumped ahead. This is the 5th myth, that we think we might be able to control conditions, or God will for us, that we are never sick or broke if we are positive and conscious enough. I talked about this earlier, that, and part of it started with Ernest Holmes. This is the part I disagree with him. He said, we believe in the healing of the sick and control the conditions through the power of this mind. I don't believe we control conditions. I think we can influence our life, that we can have a positive impact on ourselves. But control is a big word. Now, he did say this mind, it's important to say that he talked about it earlier about we believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, which is the law of God. So he was talking about this oneness that's there. So he put a context in it. But the truth is that we can influence our conditions, we can choose our responses, and create from our experiences. And above all, suffering is optional. Another myth is that everything happens for a reason. I know all of you will go, wait, I say that all the time. Well, what I'm saying about this one is there is reason behind everything. There is good behind everything. But sometimes things happen and they're not for a particular reason, and we can get obsessive and crazy trying to find out what that reason is, trying to find meaning in life. My experience is when we are sad or depressed or feel betrayed, that's when we look for meaning, and that's the hardest time to find it. When we're happy and joyful, we're not looking for meaning. We think, oh, life is good. And I think it's that obsession around what happens for a reason. But what I know, just like the stars and the planets do go through a birth and death cycle through black holes and through creation of giant stars and life here on the planet, that everything has a cycle. Everything has a reason. So that there is a reason, order, and good in all things. Life has blessings and curses. And remember, the definition of curse is a yet to be revealed good. So all things are obvious good or the yet to be revealed good. And when we can trust the universe, we can know that to be the truth. And my last myth, is if it doesn't happen, it was not meant to be. That's another one we use sometimes. Now, sometimes it's not going to be, but meant to be. There's another little kicker word that implies that there's a God up there that's going, well, you can try this, but it's not going to work out. You're not supposed to be doing that. And controlling us. We're at choice once again. So what I know is some things are not to be. Some things take time to be, a divine order, a divine timing. And some things that are called to be released. So relationships, jobs, moments in our lives are for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And to be willing to allow Spirit to guide us towards where to put our efforts, what is in the highest and best in the moment. But what's our highest and best in the moment can change over time. So we keep open to Spirit and open to this creation that allows a greater truth, allows a greater knowing, by allowing this personal relationship with the divine to be. Ernest Holmes says that incarnated within each of us is a divine spark, an incarnation of the living spirit of the cosmos, and a unique presentation of the cosmic whole. So not only are we a divine spark, we're a living spirit of the cosmos, we are a unique presentation, a unique expression of this cosmic whole. And the more we allow Spirit to come through us as us, we know what that unique expression is in this moment, in coming moments, even when we're challenged, even when we're doing just fine. We continue to express Spirit in our own unique presentation of the cosmic whole. Let us go to prayer. Thank you for watching today. If you would like more information, scan the QR code or go to nbcsl.org or come in person. We'd love to see you. Sundays, 10:30, live music, great messages in this great community we have here.